Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things. And we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. So this morning, I was just kind of like listening to content, right? And I was watching one of the shows that we produced yesterday, right? And that show was centered on some comments that Gilbert essentially made about Michael Jordan, right? And the video is doing pretty well. A lot of people seem to be taking quite a bit of interest in it. So I was listening to it kind of passively in the background, because sometimes when people leave comments, I kind of go back to see, okay, what did they like about that part? Stuff like that, right? So after a while, as I was listening to it, Gilbert Arenas mentioned something about how physical MJ's era was. And it made me immediately remember a conversation, or a heated debate, actually, a few months ago on ESPN between JJ Redick and Chris Mad Dog Russo. Now, about 3 months ago, what happened? JJ Redick and Mad Dog had this huge argument on live TV, basically about the physicality in today's NBA, where Chris Mad Dog Russo was basically implying that in the era in which was it Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and these guys, in the era in which those guys played, the game was much more physical. And JJ Redick was essentially pushing back on that notion by saying, this is absolutely ridiculous. How could you say this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we want to do is, want to quickly give you guys just to jog your memory. So we want to quickly play that exchange for you guys and then come back and continue on with the show here. So take a listen to this exchange between JJ Redick and Mad Dog Russo. Take a listen to that.
And Bird is one of the great shooters in the history of the sport. Not even close.
Bird shot threes. He never was a volume shooter from three.
No, I know that, but he was a great three-point shooter. He was not good. He was great. He's one of the top 5 three-point shooters of all time. That's how good Bird is. Oh, yes. Won three-point shooting contests. He was phenomenal. Bird's a great shooter.
Wait a minute,
and Bird didn't shoot.
Bird is absolutely one of the greatest shooters ever, but he's not one of the top 5 three-point, top 3, whatever you just said.
Did you see the three-point shooting that he put on, those clinics that he put on at the All-Star game?
Again,
did you watch?
Doggy, it's just math. It's attempts, it's makes, and it's percentage. And there's no way you could ever argue Larry Bird is a top 3 three-point shooter of all time. You can't make that argument.
You're basing it on math. You're basing it on math and a time of when he played. I'm basing it on just shooting. Bird is a unbelievable.
Again, we had this discussion the other day. About
phenomenal.
James Naismith. James Naismith invented the game. You were rewarded for putting the ball in the basket. There's plenty of people that have shot more, made more, and guess what? Made more at a higher percentage than Larry Bird from 3. I'm not saying Larry Bird is not one of the greatest shooters ever. He's not one of the greatest three-point shooters ever.
Yes,
you cannot make that argument.
Yes, I'm sorry. Because the 80s was so much different. There's physicality, the way they guarded people. You couldn't.
Can we get off this physicality thing? Seriously, can we get off this physicality thing? Come on, man.
I've been trying to make a point. Hold on, guys.
Physicality, Jay. I mean, you don't think that counts?
You know what? You and I are going to sit down. We're going to sit there and we're going to watch finals games from the 1980s.
But Jay, here's the difference.
I'm going to show you what physical basketball is versus physical fouling.
You're watching them on YouTube. I saw the games. I watched the games at the time. I watched all these games. You didn't watch them. You weren't alive when these games were being played. Did you see Bird play against the Lakers in '84? Did you see Bird against the Rockets in '86? Were you at courtside watching these games? No. You got to watch the games at the time. Okay. Watching them on YouTube 40 years later is not the same at the moment.
So
watching a
let me ask you a question then. When I watch, let's say Steph Curry, for example.
Right.
When I watch Steph Curry off the ball in a playoff game,
he's great.
Getting grabbed and held by Marcus Smart. They're attached to him at all times.
Right.
Then when I watch Larry Bird come off a pin down and no one's within 5 feet of him and they're shooting the gap, you're telling me one is more physical than the other? You're telling me that's more physical than Steph Curry being grabbed and held for 48 minutes?
He doesn't. They don't call those fouls on Marcus Smart when he holds them and he holds them on those pick and roll. Of course they call the fouls. They protect Curry all the time.
So you heard the exchange, right? So that was the premise, that you can see JJ Redick getting upset, like, I'll even show you film and you show me how this guy's grabbing this guy, blah, 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 blah. Now, at the time when JJ Redick said that, a lot of NBA greats like Dominique Wilkins, so many others were like, is this guy serious? Even a lot of NBA fans were like, wait, is this guy serious? He's actually really trying to say that this NBA today, even if you sneeze on a guy, they're going to call a foul. He's saying that the physicality is still the same. Like even I was like totally stunned by this. But nevertheless, that was the point that JJ Redick was essentially making. And then I remembered what Gilbert Arenas was saying. And while I was listening to it, Gilbert Arenas brought up a particular part where he was saying that one of the reasons MJ should be considered the GOAT and one of the reasons he would build his team around him was due to his durability while playing in the more physical era. So what we want to do is we want to play that part where Gilbert Arenas pretty much hammered that idea home, and then we're going to really unpack this thing. So take a listen to that.
I usually go LeBron because I get everything, but when you're talking about what made Jordan Jordan, he didn't have a reference to follow. He was the best player on.
But I think,
ever.
but I'm saying to be Magic though.
What I'm saying, he was considered the best player ever by his second championship. So from there, he just around. Like it's not like LeBron's chasing someone. Yeah. So he's like, I still got to keep playing. The other one already got the crown of the best ever before he had 18,000 points. 18,000 points. He was considered the best player to ever touch this game. Everything else was cream on top. So they're never going to give you the spot. But if you can tell Jordan, who is hey, listen, there's a guy that's coming. So you have to put 20 years. Now no one's touching it. Because he was playing 80 games. If you add the 3 more years, you're guaranteed 80 games out of Jordan. That's one thing that you can look at his resume and say, he played every game. Like there was no, during an era where they were the most physical. So now you got an era where there's nobody physical like that. Oh my God, I mean, it's. So I gotta take what I seen here.
So you heard what Gilbert Arenas had to say there. Now here are my thoughts on this. Just watching this particular NBA from a fan's perspective, from an observer's perspective, it's pretty clear that this NBA physicality has totally been stripped out of the game. This was something that was also proved by a sit-down that Adam Silver had with Kevin Garnett, where Kevin Garnett asked Adam Silver this very question. He said, is the game better off today now that you've removed the physicality? And what did Adam Silver say? He said, yes, I believe it is. He said the thing was the game was too physical back then. This is the commissioner of the NBA. He said the game was so physical back then that it was actually restricting players that had a lot of skill from being able to exhibit those skills, therefore making the game more boring because guys are not able to put their talents on full display. So even the commissioner of this current NBA is saying that the game has been softened. It's been watered down. They've made it more free-flowing. They have more freedom of movement. So if you have more freedom of movement, what's the opposite of that? A lack of movement, a lack of freedom of movement. In the past, if you ran through the paint, you're gonna get hit in the chest with an elbow. I mean, it always had. Go look at the game Kobe doing work. That was in 2008. Just go watch that. You'll see. Kobe ran through the lane. Boom. He caught an elbow in the chest. It kept playing. You do that today, that's an offensive foul. Right? So to me, I think that, that's a defensive foul or whatever you want to call it. That's a foul. So the point that JJ Redick, I think, has been making, I think the main reason he's been holding on to these notions, like by saying that the players are more skilled today and all of that, is because he wants this era to be the best. And therefore, he's going to try to rewrite history to fit whatever narrative he's trying to put forward. But in this particular instance, I thought it was pretty refreshing to hear a modern day guy, a guy talking about sports in this particular era, this particular day and time, basically saying that no, MJ, as a matter of fact, did play in the more physical era. And I thought that was a fantastic point. That's why I said on yesterday's show, Gilbert Arenas really knocked it out of the park with some of those basketball points that he made yesterday. So what I want to know from you guys is simply this. Do you think that this era is watered down in comparison to the 90s? Or do you think that, no, it's all the same? This game isn't less physical than the 90s. Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comment section, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Peace.